Hello and welcome to this week's Madaxeman podcast. We're a little short-handed this week with a team of 6, but we've got plenty to talk about. There is astonishingly some painting that's happened, a bit of modelling as well, some new stuff's been bought. What a surprise. But really this week it's all about York, Jorvik, Iberacum, the competition that's coming up with a new feature, World of War Sports, in which we look at the runners and riders and try and predict who's going to win this competition. Of course, Andy's quiz returns as well, and that follows the theme. It's almost consistent. It's almost like we planned it. That's about York too. So sit back, pin back your ears, and prepare to be taken up north for the Madaxeman podcast.
This means war.
Well, look, welcome. We're on the eve. Almost literally the eve, and in fact by the time this comes out we will literally be on the eve of the restarting of the competition circuit with a competition in York with exactly the legally maximum 30 people allowed, definitely, in a tent, which I think the wonderful man Paul has managed to rearrange at the last minute after a bit of kerfuffle with the Johnson variant nearly putting a bit of a spanner in the works, I think. So some of us are heading up to York to play competitions, but some of us are not. One of us has pulled a sickie. I think it must be either cricket day or hay fever day or possibly the Johnson variant has made its way to Bournemouth. Fingers crossed, let's hope not. And so Adam is missing this time, but we do have obviously the best 6 people out of the 7 here still, of course, and as is traditional now in this summer, I think we've got quite a limited range of painting going on, but we've got some new figure unpacking, and I think I can see 4 or maybe 5 people who've either done some painting or done some figure unpacking possibly to come to. So I think, bearing in mind we've got a thin field, we may as well start with the easy slam dunk, definitely done some painting and work and all the rest of it. Tamzin and your 2000 AD background, slightly cartoonish background, talk us through what you have been creating for the bottom of your fish tank in this last couple of weeks, because you were talking about doing stuff in the jungles, and I think looking at what's on screen, I think there's a very denuded pet shop somewhere near where you live.
Started the jungle, you can see. I did a few test pieces to see how things worked out and how they looked.
And the answer is bloody marvellous, or
my fish tank is looking very unhappy now.
So clearly, everybody knows that there is a world of fish tank plantage, but
also a world of plastic palm trees and plastic
palm trees. And that's what I was going to come on to. So 2 weeks ago, you told us that you bought some cheap tat from China that we've all looked at on eBay, but then with a bit of spray and a bit of dry brushing, you'd actually magically turned it into something proper. But now there's vastly more foliage on these irregular shaped bases. So
yes.
So how much of what we're looking at now has had paint and silicone sealant?
Most of these sort of aquarium plants or bits from the sort of, you can go to shops and you could buy the sort of hanging balls of plastic. Plant. It's a mix of those sort of things on there, and none of the aquarium plastic plants have had any work done to them other than going in and being sort of getting a brown ink glaze.
Oh, of course, a brown ink glaze. Yeah, I think I had that on the steak that I had earlier on this evening. Yeah, just a little brown ink glaze.
Just to tone down some of the garishness a bit.
Yeah,
and also to dull.
Did you get a blowtorch on that just to caramelise the glaze a little bit, or no? It's just a brown ink glaze. Okay, just some matte varnish then, I guess.
I've done a mix of bases. I've done some proper sort of larger bases and also
There's
I've done
some clump foliage there,
some scatter bases to go in sort of clearing areas.
Yeah,
with bits, and painted up a little bit of MDF as well.
Okay,
A couple of
wheelbarrows.
And a
That's
privy.
the famous. That's the Japanese privy and the two Japanese wheelbarrows.
Well, given it's for Papua New Guinea, it's one of the Australian plantation guys, so it's his dungy, yeah.
All right.
Truth, mate.
So Simon, do you think an Australian army dunny, with your experience, would be more frightening than a Japanese army dunny, or do you just want to say the word dunny with a really strong Australian accent and we'll all be delighted?
Yeah, you don't want to be in a dunny with a couple of spiders, like a couple of redbacks popping up on the toilet seat. Struth would be an absolute ripper.
Right. Good. Thank you. Yes. Ding, ding. Oh,
David will translate for us.
And
yes.
Like second real batch I did was a couple of more open bases where figures can be put in and be moved through.
And looking at the ground scatter on these bases, do these have a herbicultural sort of smell to them still, or have you managed to?
No, the smell pretty much. Well, it's either disappeared or been locked in by sort of the various
cooking process,
paint and PVA stuff that's gone on.
Okay.
So it doesn't really have that smell anymore.
But it would have the taste though if you bit into it, wouldn't it? Yeah, the herbs on the herby crust would probably be.
Yeah, but with paint taste as well.
Right. Okay. All right. So you've not heated them up in a microwave, no? No,
I haven't heated them up in microwave. No.
Right. God, you do that much more posh than I do. That's a bit disturbing. God. Right. Okay. Oh no, that's good. So how many?
Some more coconut palms.
So these are sprayed proper cake decorations that have been properly painted, then, or they?
Yes. These are cake decorations which have been properly painted, and there's also some sago palms as well.
Okay. So it's been a forestaceous couple of weeks then.
Yeah, and just completed some more bases today.
Superb. Wow. And you've got the rocks on those, and I imagine you cast those rocks yourself?
Those rocks are not cast. They're ones I carved from blue foam.
Casting is just too easy. You know, if you go on a spectrum, isn't it, from picking them up in the garden to casting them yourself, you've gone. Both of those things are too straightforward. I need to hand carve these and create art with them.
Yeah, and also some more scatter bases, round bases, and some bases where I was trying out sort of secondary jungle, but with removable trees.
Okay, I was loving the palm tree stalk on a couple of it. Yeah, that one there, where it's kind of got that really grey and really pale grey colour. That's yeah. Do you research these things? Because is it one of these things like elephants, where you think elephants are actually normally sort of browny coloured, but they're always grey? But palm trees, you think they'd be brown, but this is grey.
Picked up over the years. Trees in general are actually quite grey.
Yeah.
Honestly. Pine trees, fir trees can be can be more of a reddy brown.
Yeah.
Because foliage stops from being bleached.
Okay.
Done that. And I've painted up and based 80 banana plants, or rather 79, and one the 80th came with the wrong sort of foliage.
But you're not going to send it all the way back to China for that then? No.
So this is the start of the banana plantation.
Sorry, the start of the banana plantation is 80.
So when it comes to sort of show notes that you put up, you've obviously got the bits here about me going completely bananas.
Of course,
and coconuts.
Yep. Bananas for a pair of coconuts. That's 80 banana plants is quite a lot, really, isn't it? That's do you think there's going to be a bigger banana plantation than this, or is 80 the limit?
It's going to. I've got another 80 on the way from China.
Ah, right. Okay. Did you order them as extras, or is it just like one arrived quicker than another?
Once I'd worked out
that they were actually decent.
what sort of area I needed to cover.
Okay.
How many I'd need, and separate notes.
Well, you'll have to send me the link to this eBay seller for the link to the eBay thing. Then I can actually put a link so people can buy something from China and know that it's actually good, rather than it just being the massive lottery.
Most of the palm tree most of the palm trees are absolutely fine, but for banana plants, I've only found one supplier, and that was a Chinese company called Everest Models.
Everest Models. They're the banana plant expert for.
I see this new logo from a category, and it's recommended by Tamzin.
Yeah, Everest Models. If you want banana plants, Tamzin recommends Everest Models. Maybe I can turn this into an advertising feature, and now we will break for an advert, and I'll do a cheesy voiceover for it, and then maybe this company in China will send me some banana plants, which I don't really have any need for whatsoever. But I might as well fill the room with other crap. Really.
Why so many?
Why not?
Don't you like bananas, Peter? Bananas are wonderful. You can never have too many bananas.
Bananas, yes, banana plant.
You need them quite dense, and the plantation area in chain of command can be up to 24 inches square.
Jesus.
So
I've now played Chain of Command. We'll talk about that later. I've actually played Chain of Command.
I worked out that I want that. I need 144.
So you didn't want to do sort of like representational. You had to do 1-to-1.
Look,
Peter, if you're doing the figures 1-to-1, you might as well do the bananas 1-to-1.
See what they'll end up at. With the plantations, I'm using Swiss terrain tiles. And I've done it so that all the plants that go into the plantation-based tiles are going to be removable. So
is this when you find out there weren't any plantations in Borneo?
I think that research has probably been done already.
There were banana plantations, there were coconut plantations, there were rubber plantations.
Do you also need to get some dangerous wildlife to spice up the war games? I mean, like, I don't know, cheetahs or tigers or poisonous snakes and stuff.
You're going to have some leeches crawling through.
Snakes and mosquitoes. Lots of mosquitoes. And
what scale mosquitoes?
What scale are the mosquitoes? Come on, yeah.
We're not talking the aeroplane here, I assume.
No, we're not.
We're talking big mosquitoes with dripping fangs, just flying around.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty serious.
Got a lot. I got those southern coast of the island. You can get some saltwater crocodiles in the creek.
Okay.
So for the mosquitoes, you could just have a sound effect, really, couldn't you?
Yeah.
This means war.
Well, look, we've gone jungle crazy, really, haven't we? Already on this first one, so that's quite an impressive start. I'm not quite sure where we go from 160 handcrafted banana trees in 28 mil, but if we're going to go anywhere from there, it's got to be Andy. Surely that's the closest I can find to a logical leap. Mr. Finkel, what's your last 2 weeks of painting look like?
Well, the only thing I painted was this temple, Greek temple from. Forged in battle. So just for a bit of a giggle, I stuck a ATM on the side.
Well, most temples have got an ATM on the side, haven't they? And how are they going to pay their mercenaries without that?
Well, this is true, yeah.
And look, in fact, to be honest, I've been driving around in the car quite a lot lately, listening to digital radio, which I didn't used to have, but and then listening to, I think, Radio X and Virgin. I've suddenly realised that Hard-Fi, who were a band of 2 albums quite some time ago, if you listen to those 2 stations, are still quite popular. So, and one of their great tracks was Cash Machine. So maybe it's a Hard-Fi tribute. But yeah, Peter,
I've not heard of Hard-Fi, so I couldn't, in all honesty, claim a tribute to something I'd never heard of. But
oh right, okay, then that's probably.
I just thought, because I had a nice Greek temple which I'd bought on holiday some years ago, and then when I had some stuff,
where was that? You bought it?
Oh, about 6 or 7 years ago. We were in Athens.
That's safe then. Yeah.
Yeah, in a souvenir shop. And then when I had some stuff nicked in my car shortly afterwards, that temple was one of the things they took. So I always had a kind of half an eye on needing to replace it. So
okay,
yeah,
all right. So did you hand carve the cash machine, or did you just like stick a sticker on it?
No, I just found an image and shrank it, printed it out, and cut it out, and stuck it on.
Okay. All right, so that's all working. So, and was it something that was kind of pre-painted and you just tarted it up, or was it actually spray it
no,
black and do it properly?
The actual temple?
Yeah,
the temple comes in sort of grey, so I needed to sort of undercoat and paint it, and I've painted the cracks between the paving slabs and stuff, and painted the roof, and there's a kind of a facing which I painted sort of sky blue, and then I painted gold bits on top of it. There's a shield and arrows and things.
So you painted it in as it would have been in ancient Greece, not as in.
I think so. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Obviously. What Pantone reference or which which type of brand of paint did the Greeks use for their sky blue?
I haven't been able to find that out.
Okay, but you pick one out of your collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably use Vallejo.
Vallejo. Everybody used Vallejo. Yeah.
Well, he wasn't he the god of painting at the time?
Yes. Yeah. Vallejo, the Greek god of painting. That could have been it. Okay. Well, talking of gods of painting, Peter, I understand you've been painting black and white blobs all week. Really?
Absolutely. I've been doing some nice Mycenaeans that I got off Clive, one of Clive's old armies. I've been tarting up, and it's quite nice. I'm looking forward to it because I haven't done many sort of biblical ones, and with the changes in the rules, they having a load of heavy spearmen sounds like a bit more fun than it used to be. So you can actually arrive there along with a load of light chariots. So I'm looking forward to actually trying it out. But it was sort of getting me back in the groove of actually painting again. Black and white with dots and tarting it up with bit of colour here and there.
Yeah.
Got to do a bit of flocking and everything else. But it's like a gateway drug to get me back in painting again. Now the weather's warmed up and I can sit outside and do it.
Yeah. So how was that? How did that work out for you? Was it did you? Because if you're tarting up something that's kind of a bit old, do you take them all off the bases, or did you leave them on the base and just work on the shields? So what was your strategy?
Just left them all on the bases still, because I could get to them because they were lined up in single rows. So it was perfectly easy to get to them. They weren't sort of doubled up or anything else. And ripping them off, I'd probably cause more damage than I would. So it was a case of straightening things out, tarting it up, just doing a refresher across it all. Look quite nice. Sort of like the overall effect looks pretty good. I've just got a little bit more to do, but I'm looking forward to trying it out and having a bit of fun with it, because having what's not to like with a load of light chariots going storming in and around like a bunch of mosquitoes. Got to have a bit of fun with that.
Yeah. And did you do because we talked about the big black blobs and then the two tiny dots? Did you
doing the dotty bit. The dotty bit made it broke it up a little bit more, so I quite like that. The only thing I need to get, I've been looking at the new museum ones that they're looking to do, because I want to get some get my Trojan piece, my Achilles Myrmidons.
Yeah.
Myrmidons?
Myrmidons, I think, is it? Possibly.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I quite like their. I saw a couple of pictures of their new ones, so I'll get a couple of those just to tart it up and make it all sparkly. Some nice sort of like medium sword impact to go steaming through the foliage. Yeah.
Okay. And because I think Museum are retiring their old Mycenaean range pretty quickly or pretty soon, which luckily I think I've got more than enough of them, so I don't really need any more.
I was thinking of getting their medium swordsmen from that, but they didn't look that great, to be honest.
Yeah, they're a bit old school, aren't they? They've been moved on from the other ones.
Yeah, just a bit. Whereas the spearmen and all that, they look quite good en masse with the shields and everything else. It's like it portrays that sort of effect with the big shields, which could actually be upgraded to purveyors. It sort of like fits in quite nicely for it.
It's definitely all about the shield. Okay.
That mean they're going to do a Z range in the Mycenaeans?
Yeah, they've already produced one. They're just about to start selling it.
Cool. shown some of the pictures on their Facebook. They were quite nice. It was like sort of like big curly feather thing on top as well, isn't it?
I think what's always with Z range, it's going to need the right sort of painting approach. I think we're talking, it sort of suits washes and inks, but it doesn't necessarily suit blocks and dry brushing quite so much.
Yeah, they kind of spray it white and hit it with a contrast paint sort of kind of appeals to me somehow. In actually my research, I'm tempted to the spray it bronze and tart it up a little bit, which kind of really appeals to me, you know.
Yeah, you'd be all over that, wouldn't you? Really, definitely.
With my historical research of, what did Troy do? You know, the Trojan Wars and Brad Pitt. So my Brad Pitt special of paint it bronze.
Yep.
With red bit. I think it'll go great for me.
No, definitely. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, let's carry on now. Another Clive sort of purchase. Simon, you've been unbagging some kind of an obscure, but I suspect quite nice range of figures, haven't you?
Yeah. So Clive had in his collection a completely unboxed, still in its little bags and all that, a Dixon models 7 Years War Swedish Army. So lots of different options. So there was a whole bunch of cuirassiers, some very, very nice looking horsemen guys with big rifles, commanders, a bit of artillery, and man after my own heart, an absolute shed load of pike and muskets. So I've been working my way through that, just getting them all filed and ready for base coating, and then I'm going to be painting them up for Kings of the Battlefield, and I'm going to be doing them as a Swedish Army.
Okay, all right.
Simon, it occurs to me that if they've got pikes and stuff like that, it might actually be a great Northern Wars army from, you know, when they fought the Russians in Poltava and stuff, which would still be King of the Battlefield, but just a lot earlier than 7 Years War. Yeah, so
because I know the Swedes sort of kept some of their pike till a little bit later.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I read a magazine somewhere they talked a little bit about it, but it's just gives you an excuse to have guys with blue coats and yellow cuffs, a bit different from the obligatory Prussians, French, Austrians.
Yeah.
And, I can have all the banners up as Swedish heavy metal bands. So, you know.
How big are those? How big are those Dixon 15mm? Because were they the same sculpture as the two Dragons Vikings? If it was for a former Dixon range,
that I don't know, but they're pretty close to Essex 15mm. Because I've got a bunch of spare Essex 15mm from a League of Augsburg, Louis XIV style army from ADLG and Fognar. So, you know, as a war gamer, you always have these spare parts lying in a bag. And when I match them up, they're pretty close in size. Like, you know, the Essex are maybe a millimetre bigger, but when you're playing at 3 foot distance, they're going to look perfectly fine. So I can now...
Because the Dixon, a lot of the Dixon 25mm ranges are kind of almost anime characters. They've got like really round heads and they're quite, they're sort of cute. They're kawaii, if that's the word, isn't it? Kawaii. Yeah. But are these ones just more normal figures then?
These ones are very normal. So they're very, very sharp molds. So they're on par with a very nice clean style. You know, the Peter Peak style miniatures.
Yeah.
You know, nice sharp, you know, a good sharp mold, not much in the way of cleaning up. A horse, the horse and rider are sold separately. So you buy your horses and then you choose your rider. And they fit on very well. I've seen some ranges, you have to spend quite a while with milliput trying to fill up the saddle and the legs and all that to give a good fit. These ones have mostly sat very perfect, very close with specifically they're all locked into place. And also there's a lot of nice detail. I think with a bit of like iron painted dip, which is what I use, and stuff like that. I think they'll come out quite nice. I think they'll look really spectacular as just a bonkers army to run around and make Swedish jokes and turnip jokes.
Well, you know, you can't beat a good turnip joke, really. I think.
No,
definitely.
This means war.
Look, from my point of view, I've actually done. other than the moving Clive stuff on, I've done a bit of rebasing this week. I sorted out all my 15mm Longbowmen, or nearly all of them, which were they're the Battle Honours range, which is from Old Glory. So it's sort of obscure. It's kind of hidden on their website, and I think I had 48 of them, and they were all based on 4 to a base on 20x40s. So I've kind of soaked them all off and redone them onto 6 to a base on 40x40s for proper ADLG, and just because you need more Longbowmen now. So instead of having effectively 8 on a base, I've now got 6, and they still look pretty busy. And I managed to sort of mix them up a bit, so there's 2 different types rather than just a different mix. And I've managed to kind of cook up 9 bases of those, which has been good. I've based up a few. I have a suspicion some of these might be Spanish and some might be Samnites. I think I had 60. I had 30 odd sort of odd figures of Clives that were painted that are going to become Celtiberians for a Spanish army that I've got a lot undercoated. And then I actually put some paint on figures myself, which kind of feels like really weird because I haven't done that for so long. You might remember from months ago, I'd stripped my whole Mirliton medieval feudal Italian army back down.
It was a biostrip event, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the big biostrip event. And I spent a long time sticking plastic, bristle spears onto them, and then I got some new Lollipop Sticks from eBay, and I've stuck them all on Lollipop Sticks, and I sprayed them all white. And I've just started my first kind of couple of sets. In fact, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got about 8 or 9 Lollipop Sticks out of probably about 40 of these guys. But I've done some of the sort of quartered heraldry. And here's a pop quiz question. So when I'm painting medieval figures, you kind of want, quartered, whatever it's called, tabards and stuff. And then I end up going, yeah, red and blue. That looks strong. And then I go, what else do I do that's as good as red and blue? Because red and blue is kind of the coolest. And then I think maybe red and yellow is the second one. Yeah, exactly. Where do you go after that?
Blue and white.
Yeah,
blue and white.
I've used a lot of blue and white.
Blue and white.
Green and something.
Green and yellow.
Can you do green and yellow? But
green and yellow is quite good.
Doesn't that look like Norwich City from Sabutio from the 1980s?
Yeah, it does a bit.
Yeah, okay. So you need a bit of Delia Smith going on with
the
that.
Vertical halves. Vertical halves are quite good. Don't do quarters, just do vertical halves.
So, yeah, possibly. Vertical. Okay. So, because I'm just a bit obsessed with the red and blue, and I'm going, that's just too much. But yeah, blue.
You know what you can use the theme, Tim? Football kit. Just think of different teams, think of their kit, and do units in the kit of those colours.
But like Arsenal in the 1970s with white sleeves and red stuff and the rest of it.
Yeah, but it gives you all a contrasting thing, and it gives you an idea of theme. So for different units,
There's
possibly.
It's in the Tagmata website, which they go back quite a long way. They're Mirliton.
Okay.
If you go on there, the pictures been around ages, but there's some beautifully painted Italian, and then Mirliton figures and things. Yeah. And they look absolutely amazing with pavises and things.
Okay. Well, I think pavises I'm sort of printing out, and I've done the sort of leather strip padded armor with contrast paints with I think it's skeleton bone on white, which you obviously can't see that, but that guy at the front, it's that's the go-to color, and that looks really good. So I did all those first, and then I've done some of
the only time I've seen pictures of it's just making the colours pop, because all the pictures I've seen really are, really gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I've got to kind of get that. I did one base a long time ago, so they're super colourful for these kind of mixed spear and bow units, and I've got so many of the damn things now that I've reorganised them that I can kind of get them properly. But it's just I don't want them all in red and blue, but actually, just going green and yellow possibly, and red and yellow and blue and white. That's another thing. Is there anything else beyond those ones that
black and white? Good? Fulham.
Yeah, but I want a Premiership kind of army, not a kind of yo-yo Championship sort of army, really. And then
Newcastle.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to paint vertical black and white stripes at all. That's not happening. There's just, it just feels like there should be something else.
Orange and black wolves.
Maybe it's pale blue. I don't know. Is pale blue different? Does that work with different colours?
When I did my Spanish feudal one, I did halves. I did so obviously Spanish, red and yellow. But I did some with quarters, some with halves, with opposite sides. So that way you mix it up rather than doing them all in a uniform.
I suppose there's black and yellow as well, isn't there? That's the thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Sort of. That might work. Maybe I need to add black to the palette. Add black to the palette, possibly. Okay.
The communal Italians to send you because they're really good.
There's definitely some of those, and I've got a few. I actually painted up as well a couple of war wagon horses that I used that skeleton bone on white as well. Does that work at all? That look really, really nice for some of these wagons, and I'm just painting up some crew to go in them. These kind of shooty wagons with the artillery pieces. So they should get done in the next fortnight. But it was a real struggle, kind of picking up a paintbrush again. But tomorrow's going to be raining. And now I've started with the contrast paints. You seem to sort of get close to finishing quicker. I'm not quite sure what it is. You just dob the stuff on and they're sort of done faster. So maybe I'll have a bit of a blitz and get some of them done. And doing a bit of rebasing has kind of given me some free figures as well. It feels like some sort of free figures. So it's not all been too difficult. But talking of things that were too difficult, it probably is time to talk about some of the games that we played over the last couple of weeks.
This means war.
So look, it's been with some work going on for some of us, but the rest of us managing to squeeze in some games and start to do some face-to-face down at the pub and the club. I think three of us have had a degree of gameplay. Simon, what about you? Have you been doing virtual and face-to-face, I think?
Yeah, I've tried to have a couple of virtual games, but due to my inability to schedule myself, failed miserably. But I actually managed to get into the club and have a real game against Mr. Allen, which was quite weird, since I haven't seen him since Warfare 2019. So,
has he aged? Has he aged? Do you think he always does, doesn't he?
He's looked like the same since I met him 12 years ago. Just nothing changes. Just I think the goatee gets a little bit whiter, but otherwise,
I think it's like Dorian Gray, but he's probably got a picture of Lenin or something in his cupboard that ages quickly or something.
Either that, or he's got a whole bunch of 28mm plastic figures that are getting older and older. So
that could be it. And wilting, possibly wilting.
There's a waxwork Lenin in the loft.
Yes, that's it, just sagging by the day. Probably his pizza oven is melting it, I suspect.
Yeah,
so we had a game of he wanted to try out his Scots, so I brought. I thought he was going to be feudal Scots. He brought later Scots, and I brought 100 Years War English. So we had a reasonably historic scrap. The Scots and the English fighting. Never happened before.
Never.
And it was quite good fun. We got into
it wasn't a 0-0 draw that ended up with 3 people getting COVID and having to self-isolate, was it?
Oh no, there was some self-isolation afterwards, mainly from a need of spending time in the hospital after getting charged in the rear and the front and the side. That didn't go well.
Okay.
We did get a proper result. So in the end, I got absolutely whooped. But we managed to get, I think, nearly every element on the table into combat. So we were quite happy with that. So about 40 elements in combat by the end of the game. So yeah, a respectable amount. We got to try some of those, some of the new mechanics of light horse being able to zock, real trick by. I left him a nice gap, so light horse was able to come behind my rear rack, my line, turn around and zock some of my cavalry he could have evaded. So life got all very interesting. But then very nicely, I was able to charge that light horse in the rear, explode it. It then caused damage on all the knights who had come spontaneously through. So it's all good fun. And we had just doing a good old-fashioned scrap, His pike got into my swordsman did damage. His pike rolled over me. knights did what they did best. It was great. It was a good fun game.
Okay. All right, that's good. And was that your main gaming experience the last fortnight then?
Yeah, because other than that, the biggest thing I've been focusing on is going through ATSO army lists for Renaissance, being quite fastidious, going, yes, that's the correct term, go through all the pictures and all the diagrams just to get things correct so we don't have some of these queries on language and all that. So
yes, indeed.
It's been good fun, so yeah.
No, I must admit, I've got the your ADLG draft on my desktop to look at tomorrow in between editing this and pumping this podcast out on Thursday. So I think those two things are on my rain-soaked agenda. All right, let's go round. Andy, you're the other guy who normally plays a lot of games, and I'm confident I'm aware of at least one game you played through being the other passive participant in it. But tell us about the games that you played before that one first. Do you do one or two against Dave Ray with your world of strategy?
I think we've had two. Yeah, Dave and I have had two games in the meantime, and I managed to finish second in both of them.
Well done.
The main thing, the main learning from them really was two learnings. One was that impetuous cavalry games are good fun. The right bugger to try and turn onto the flank of people, but they go around like the clappers and you get plenty of action when you've got impetuous cavalry. The other thing was that we had a game last night with Hindu Indian against Ghaznavid. And so I had elite elephants and Dave had armoured elephants. And I came to the conclusion that armoured elephants are actually better.
Okay.
Wow.
Because they don't fall over so easily. And if you do actually, if they damage you, you've then got to outscore them by 3 to hurt them.
Right. Okay.
The armour counts in combat then?
Yeah.
Not against elephants, but it counts against...
This is elephants versus elephants. We had the elephants were butting up against each other, and it was...
but armour doesn't count against elephants.
Doesn't?
No, Andy. No.
There's a clear statement.
I can see a flaw in your theory here, Andy.
Armour does not fight against elephants ever.
I think that there might be a line in that which says, even in the FAQ, armour doesn't count against elephants.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I still lost, but I might not have lost quite so badly.
It's all right, Andy. Say it again. I can edit out your gross, incompetent mistake, and then you can go. You can tell.
That would be a waste, wouldn't it? It would be a waste.
Wow, Andy, guess what? It's even in the first bit. The FAQ in special abilities armor does not apply against elephants.
Does it actually say armor does not apply against elephants, Andy?
Andy.
It says in the FAQ.
Or in the first round, if an enemy has furious charge. So it just, was it elephant with furious charge as well?
Yeah.
Possibly it does. So would you like, Andy, let's pretend that I'm going to edit that out. And you've just played with armoured elephants against elite elephants. What's your opinion as to what's the best one then now?
Had we applied the rules correctly, it probably would have been the elite, but
yeah, I think
we may have got things wrong during the game.
Okay, that may well have been the case. Okay,
and I can't blame other people for not reading the small print. It's what we should do.
No, definitely. That's your job, isn't it? If other people read the small print, you'd be out of work.
Well, the thing is, I do it during the day, so perhaps having to do it in the evening, maybe that's my excuse.
That's just too hard. All right. And then, do you want to give your story of the other game that you played, which was the one that me and you played on Monday night?
Yeah. The way to beat Tim is not to do anything particularly stupid and roll very hot dice.
Yep, that worked for me. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it was brutal, wasn't it? It was absolutely brutal. It was proper biblical action. It was your Hebrews against my sea people.
Yeah, we didn't even have the sacred camp.
No, there was nobody sacrificing and burning snakes or any of that old malarkey.
No, the snakes on coast wouldn't burn them. It would be cows and sheep and things like that. But I think my cunning plan of sending 10 chariots around a 5 UD wide gap did actually work quite well.
Yeah, it was
because you weren't expecting it.
No, I was expecting you to kind of spread your army a little bit out more, and I kind of matched that. But yeah, you just poured like a dozen chariots through a gap that was wide enough for 4. And also it's the first time because I'd rebased my sea people about 2 years ago and never actually used them. just cobbled them together out of all sorts of other stuff. And I was a little bit surprised to find that the sea people now only have 6 heavy infantry. And I think in the version 3, they used to have 8 or more, something like that. So I was trying to hold this gap in between terrain with 4 of my heavy infantry just to kind of slow you down, and then throw all of my impetuous medium troops through the terrain on the other 80% of the table and run over your bog standard medium swordsman with my impetuous medium swordsman and just blow them away. And every single time I hurled into your swordsman, they absolutely battered me. It was just like, I think by the end of it, you finally lost, I think, 4 of
I lost 5 out of 6, I think.
You lost 5 out of 6 of your swordsmen.
And I lost about 7 or 8 or something.
I lost 8. And you're going, so this is an equal matchup. I've got greater numbers. I've got overlaps, and I get furious charge at first contact. I think it was even some that you charged and beat. And it was just like, so my plan.
I think I charged one guy and remarkably, yeah. I
think my plan of lose slowly over here and then crush you over there. The lose slowly didn't work too badly. Worked, yeah. But then the crush you over there bit with superior numbers and better troops just completely abjectly failed. So it did show me that I need to rebase again 2 units. I think 2 units of 8 medium swordsmen to give myself another couple of medium swordsmen. But it was a bloody big army. You know, it went on longer given my dice. It went on longer than I thought, because I think I managed to eke my army up to about 29.
Well, yeah, your break point was 29, but you say he went on longer, but I got to the club about 6:30, and by 8:30 it was all finished.
I know, it went on a lot longer than I thought it would do, given the dice, to be honest. But that was partly through to the enormous break point. But yeah, no, it was good to get those dice out of the way. So whoever's playing me in the first round at York, I apologise in advance, really, because
I wouldn't just enjoy it.
yeah, they've got some pretty hot dice coming their way if the law of averages does actually work out over any sort of period of time, really.
Yeah, what was good though was the Hebrew army has improved in some ways from the version 3 rules, because it's now got a command rating of up to 4, and you can actually, by using some light foot and stuff, get a +1 initiative for the light troops, which you couldn't previously. So I could actually get an initiative of 3, and I had 2 brilliant commanders, which when I rolled 1 for command meant they could still give 3 pips of moving, which was quite useful.
Actually, yeah, I think that was one thing I thought in retrospect, because I was committed to using the sea peoples anyway, but I think they only have 6 light foot, and some of them can be fielded as javelin men, and otherwise it's just an all impetuous army. So I fielded 2 or 3 as javelin men, which meant I couldn't get any initiative other than the generals, because you would have to use all 6 light foot as light foot. Which sort of felt suboptimal. And I thought defending might be okay, because I did get a lot of terrain down, and it did provide an obvious place for your infantry to hide. And then I charged into it and just got whooped, really. So it was a partial success.
In hindsight, I should have pulled back to that hill rather than fight you in the.
No, you could have fought me anywhere, Andy, with those dice. You could have fought me downhill.
The
downhill with like naked people with bare hands. It would have still gone really horribly wrong.
If it'd been on with fluffy bunny rabbits with those dice, it would have beaten you.
Yeah, that probably could have been it. Yeah, but look, and I think on that note, that's time to look forward to the games that us and some other people will be playing in York this weekend, and introduce our new feature, which is probably a one-off for York in our shameless effort to drive up our listenership by 30 people, which is the entire field at York, by releasing this podcast before York and publicising it to all of them, as we try and predict the winners in York in what is going to become World of War Sports. Hello and welcome to World of War Sports here on Madaxeman.com. This is ADLG punditry at its very finest. Well, welcome to the World of War Sports here, and we're looking at the Euros, the Euro format version of the York competition that's coming up this weekend. Again, as we say, in a shameless effort to try and drum up another 30 listeners. And what we've done, we've kind of done a hybrid here, because doing things straight and normal is just not exciting enough, and we can't get enough exciting whizzy graphics in.
Anyway, so we wouldn't do it anyway.
UEFA wouldn't do it anyway. We've got some opera singers in. We've got some Russian, Latvian dancers to do it. There's like going to be a 4-hour preamble and the rest of it. And then there's going to be some pop star you've never seen. And what we've actually managed to do is to split the field in York, apart from a couple of the late entries that I forgot, into 4 groups. And we're going to go around and we're going to talk about those groups. We're going to look at which armies we think are going to make it out of the group stage into the quarterfinals, then the semi-finals, then the final. So we're going to decide through a way in which there's no relationship whatsoever to how this competition will play out. The best army and the best player and the best everything for the York competition coming up. So pool 1, group number 1. Is this the group of death? What is this the group of? We don't know. So our random computerizer has come up with a group of, it's got a reasonable number of Daves, actually. It's pretty good on the Dave front, this one. So in group 1, the armies which we're going to be looking at is Dave Hanley, who I know isn't using early Arab. He's using something else because he's had a late change, but I can't remember. Anyone else remember what that is?
No.
Something Aramean. I can't believe it. Something dodgy. Dave Ruddock with Armenian, World of Cataphracts. Dave Allen, Parthians, World of Cataphracts. Bob Amy, Palmyran, World of Cataphracts. Nick Sharp, Meriotic Cushite, not a Scooby. Gordon Jameson with the Mad Caledonians, Dark Horses.
Okay,
Bob Middlemiss, Carthaginian. That's probably got to be Chariots, as he read those new rules.
No.
Dave Roberts, our 4th Dave of this group, Middle Imperial Roman. And I'm saying that's got artillery. And Graham Carroll with Sassanid Persian. So I don't know. Let's start.
Cataphracts and elephants.
Cataphracts and elephants. So Mr. Saunders, what are you saying? If we're coming to you on the punditry chair, I can see that you're down pitch side. The managers are walking past you. The crowd are in the background. What are you thinking? Talk us through this and what very quickly, and what's going to be your number 1 and number 2 finishers in this group, army-wise?
Well, Tim, from my point of view, group 1, and from this program, I think we've started far too early. But I call this not the group of death, but the group of cataphracts. And of the cataphract armies, I would go with Parthian, because it's Dave Allen, and I would go with Graham Carroll with cataphracts and the Sassanid Persians. Those would be my 2 choices. I don't give Gordon's Caledonians a Scooby-Doo.
Okay. So
I don't know.
Of those 2, which are you saying, because we're going to come and ask you, Dave. We're going to ask you who's going to end up first, who's going to end up second. You're saying it's a toss-up between the boy Carroll and the boy Allen.
I go Graham Carroll first, Dave Allen second.
Okay, that's the way it works. Right.
Parthians.
Okay, then. We'll just ask one more pundit here. Peter, you're a man who loves cataphracts and you love elephants. You're looking at that list. Where are you going with this?
I think where it's Gordon with the dark horse of the Caledonians is going to sneak through, because a lot of the others are going to be cancelling themselves out with cataphract versus cataphract fights, which are going to be heavy losses. And they're not going to really have the stuff to go against the Caledonians coming storming through if he gets the right terrain. So if he gets the right terrain, you could have some big wins.
So you're saying that the medium foot swordsman against the cataphracts is going to be a win?
Well, if you've got the right terrain down and everything else, all of a sudden the cataphracts start becoming a liability, because unless you've read the new rules about turning them around and everything else, getting them wrapped up if you can get on the edge of them. And hang on,
Peter. I'm just getting. We've got. We're going pitch side to Micah Richards. Micah, what do you think about this?
Look at the disgust in his face. He's crying. Right. Predictions, right? I know you want.
Thank you, Micah. That's a fantastic input. So, Peter, so you're going with Gordon Jameson. Even so, you're saying that, and with the Caledonians. And what's your second place in this group? Because I think you're going big on the Gordon here.
Big on the Gordon, and then it's got to be a cataphract. I think it may well be a Sassanid Persian, just for the mixing it up, because you're going to love an elephant.
You've got to love an elephant. That's fantastic. All right, then, let's move on to Group 2. So this is a group that's just got one Dave in it. And there's a couple of vested interests here. So I won't be coming to either you or me, Dave. So Mr. Robert Taylor, Palmyran, textbook classic army. Mr. Lopez, Julian, the Spanish devil, as he's known, from all the way up north in Lancaster, with the Blemmy and the Nobadubadobadodies. Bill Robertson, top choice. Can't argue with the slave revolt, really, can you?
Yeah.
Richard Case, he's obviously thought this through. Slave revolt. No, he's not. Sorry, Bosphorus. The Bosphorus. Bill Robertson's the slave revolt. There's the boy Porter. That'll be me. With I've painted them up, so I'm going to use them Thracians. Not feeling clever about that. Andy Ellis, early Imperial Roman, bolt shooters, cataphracts, got to be behind the legionaries. The boy Cutner, all the way down from Scotland with the Arameans. No one knows what the Arameans are. They might even be Scots, who knows? Saunders, you've got late Imperial Roman, legions, cataphracts, bolt shooters. Robin Jackson with the ancient Spanish. So let's look to Mr. Finkel. What are you saying on this, Mr. Finkel? Tell us how you think this one, which is a mixed group, isn't it? It's a mixed ability group. It's a mixed army group. What are you thinking about this? Who's going to be?
Well, the first thing that strikes me is there's not too many cataphracts in there, so other troop types are going to get their opportunity. I must admit that I've also using the Thracian army, not in York, I'm not going, but to Bournemouth, on the same basis. Well, I painted them, let's use them. So I'm interested to see how you get on with them. And I think the given terrain, they could be a good army. I think, though, to be honest, if I had to plump for two people, based on form, it's going to be Julian Lopez, because he is or was world champion, and Richard Case, because I've never beaten him.
So which one are you going to go ending up on top?
I think I'm going to Richard Case first, because he's got...
on that. That's cool.
Tamzin, yeah, let's come to you.
Richard and Julian, let's face it, they're going to be they're going to be facing each other in the final. All the rest of this discussion here is going to be about who they beat in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals.
Do you think there'll be some tactical play then, who people try and lose and sneak through as the best third place winner in order to avoid them until the final latter stages?
Yeah,
that's me submarining.
So we're saying Richard. So there's a double header there for Richard and Julian, which it basically sounds like they are the Richard and Judy of Breakfast TV, but transformed into the ADLG players of this group. So Andy, of those two, who's going to come top in this group?
Richard Case. And
Tamzin, what about you?
I don't know. I think it's going to be tight. It's going to be the two of them there. I 1 and 2 out of this group.
Well, let's suggest. I think what
depend on toss for dice.
I think what you're saying there is Richard Case, because otherwise the mathematics of how we do the second round draw won't really work. Just a suggestion. Richard Case, then. Brilliant. Well done. Well said.
One thing I do hope, though, is I do hope the slave revolt does well, because just look at the army list. I love the idea of having 24 maybe impetuous with a command of 2. Just the level of chaos and bedlam of the whole army just going spontaneous. I think that could
cause a lot of problems, couldn't it? That could cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, but that's
when you've got some of the smaller armies.
Sorry?
Certainly for the smaller ones.
I've got a question here. Julian Lopez is using Blemmy / Nobato or Nobatos.
What have they got?
They are actually 2 completely different lists buried in one list. So it should be either Blemmy or Nobato.
Yeah, that's a transcription error, though, isn't it? That we'll blame UEFA for that one. Moving on to Group 3 then, and Andy, you're recording the things here. So Group 3, we're down to one Dave. Again, it's our second group with one Dave. So we've got the boy Steer, all the way from Halifax, Republican Roman, textbook classic army. Marco Baroni, ancient British. We might as well call it Caledonian, but it's ancient British. Dave Finnegan, triumvirate Roman. We might as well call that Republican Roman. This is a pretty old school group, isn't it?
Yeah.
John Hogan. It's good to see John come back. I think I think he won a competition a while back and many years ago, beating me and Adam possibly. With Carthaginian again. Oh, what a classic! Ferdy. I'm not sure whether that's Alex Ferdyson or someone else with Mithridatic. Classic army with all the toys or possibly too many. Christophalos Ptolemaic with an unbroken record of defeat every 28 minutes against Dave Ruddock in practice, which will hopefully lull Dave Ruddock into a sense of false security. Mr. Proudfoot, the legend, the man, Chris Proudfoot with Aramean, another army, not a Scooby what's in it, but it must be clever, I'm sure. And
Camels and bowmen.
Lots of bowmen. Jesse Shaw, Mithridatic, our former clubmate who's moved out west. There's a lot of toys there to choose from. And the new man on the group, Tony Robinson, bringing out Judean Jewish, which will be delightfully painted, I'm absolutely sure. So let's have a look at this one then. Simon, when you're looking down that list of armies, which ones are you thinking are going to float up numbers 1 and 2?
I'm hoping the ancient British do well because that's the army I painted up during lockdown. And hopefully they've gone with a whole mass of impetuous swordsmen and chariots, especially because Andy and I had a game where we played with light chariots where you can upgrade them to be armoured. All of a sudden, they've actually gone from completely and utterly useless to quite enjoyable. Interesting to see how they go against all the Romans. They'll lose their impetuous, their impacted first round, but lots of furious charge. It's going to be quite an interesting period. Lots of proper stodgy armies.
No, I must admit, I'm looking at that and thinking, in this particular pool, there's always different pools the way these things fall out, and I'm going, the ancient British, they got pace down the wings with the chariots, they got the big fella up front, they got the druids cheering from the back, and those druids, if you're playing at home, the druids cheering people on and sacrificing a couple of virgins is worth an extra player in sometimes.
Well, they are Welsh, and therefore, the Welsh should play with a great deal of enthusiasm, as we've seen.
Yes, absolutely. So you need the druids there as well. So in that pool, I don't think the ancient British is a bad call, actually. I really don't. I've got a soft spot for the Carthaginians. I've got a soft spot for the Mithridatics. It would be good to see a Mithridatic army doing well as well. I think in the last competition I played, I struggled against the Judean Jewish as well. It's surprisingly good, but I think I'm probably going ancient British finishing top in that one, just because there's not enough cavalry to deal with them in that pool. And I think I'm going Carthaginian because it would just be nice to see them beat the Romans, even though hard as that is. So I'm going British first, try Carthaginian second. And Simon, who would you put in those first and second places?
So I can record it.
I think first place, not knowing all the players, I think Adrian Steer, quite a good player. So let's put him up top. And I'll be biased. Let's go for the ancient British to go up there as well.
Which one are you saying first? Which one second?
Republican Roman, then British. I think the armour will hold out just long enough to beat them at the end.
Okay, you're Republican Romans then. All right, let's scroll down a bit and then
on this one.
Oh,
you're saying that, but got to bear in mind that Tony Robinson might have a cunning plan.
I think we need to go over to Micah Richards again.
Indeed. Right. This is a new day, mate. This is social media. This is what the people want to see.
Thank you, Micah. That's I think you've summed that up quite well. So group 4, our final group then, slightly short group this time. So we've got down from the Highlands, we've got Hunter Hope with Meriotic Cushite, which smells like a biblical army. I wonder if there's chariots in it. The boy Kevin Johnson's in there. Seleucid normally plays the 15-man game, playing the 13-man game this time. It's surprising that's the only Seleucid, really. That's been a classic army of all time. Stephen Knight, another guy from the West Country, early Imperial Roman. I'm bolt shooters, legionary, square shields, bish bosh. Hugh Cameron, solid player, Parthian. That's a good choice. It was the choice of the boy Alan. In fact, this is an entirely day-free group. Quite scary. Second day-free group. That's funny how the draw sometimes comes out.
No, it's the only day-free group.
It's the only day-free group. Oh, yes, it is. It's the only day-free group. Wow.
I've got a late piece of news. The missing player is John Edwards with Triumvirate Romans.
John Edwards with Triumvirate Roman, but he's not a Dave, though, is he, Dave? So it doesn't really change the dynamics of this, really. So Triumvirate Roman. Charles Grano with Middle Imperial Roman, square shields, possibly, a little bit roundy, bolt shooters, malarkey. Paul Dawson on home ground, late Imperial Roman, round shields, bolt shooters, cataphracts, bish bosh. And then propping up the table, but you can never discount him. Mike Bennett has obviously found something in the Sassanid list, and he's the other Sassanid player. So looking at this one, then, Mr. Finkel, what are you saying? You know, out of this group of 8, this Dave-free group, how are you seeing this one playing out? Who's going to end up top of the pile?
I'd say Seleucid and Sassanid Persian are the 2 armies that stand out for me. They've got more oomph than the others, because the Seleucids can have cataphracts, or they could have elephants, or they could have both, and pikes. So I think, and Kevin's a solid player, so I would go number 1, Seleucid, and number 2, Mike Bennett with the Sassanids, simply because he can have right off Mike Bennett.
Okay. Saunders, what about you then? Looking at you as the pundit for this one.
I call Group 4 the Roman group of death. There being 1, 2, 3, 4 Roman armies, if you include the late entrants.
Or Grupus Mortis, really, is probably the right name for it.
And what's interesting, we haven't selected any Romans in what's a very Roman-heavy competition. And we're really hoping the Romans are getting better. But I tend to agree Sassanid Persians will probably go through first. Then I think... it's difficult, isn't it? I think Paul Dawson's late Imperial Roman will go through there.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. There. Well, look, yeah, that takes us into the quarterfinals then. Okay, then. So after that short break for advertising, we're back into the quarterfinals, and we've got the quarterfinal draw coming up here. And looking at how the pools have done out, this is a very, very interesting matchup. So for the first quarterfinal, we're going to come to the boy Peter, and what we've got is Pool 1 versus the winner of Pool 1, I think, versus the runner-up in Pool 2. So it's the Sassanids against the Blemi and the Nobodobades, Peter. I know that one of those armies has got elephants, but I think you've got to put that aside. You've got to lose that emotion, and you've got to take it as a real proper call.
Against Blemis.
Against Pool 2, the Blemis is Julian Lopez. The Pool 1, the Sassanids is Graham Carroll. Who's coming out on top of the Sassanids against the Blemi? You're going Blemi, are you?
I've got to go Blemis because I've played with Blemis before, and they are such a bloody good laugh. A bunch of camels coming storming in. You win. You probably have the desert. It just is a game changer. Have that, get them going in, get them moving around. Sassanids are a great army, but they're going to be an expensive army. The Blemis, you're going to be able to outdo them for numbers. And once you get them in there, it's getting them in there. But if you manage to get the desert, you can do the command, and they're going to overwhelm them.
All right. And then we go through I think it's the winner of Pool 3 versus the second place in Pool 4. So that's the Ancient Brits at home. So they will be playing at Wembley there, where get the home crowd. And I believe there's going to be 60,000 people allowed in, some of which may be sacrificed at some point. So it may not be quite as much by the end of it.
But they're all going to be impetuous anyway, aren't they?
Exactly. And against the Seleucids, who I think that's out. No, Israel is allowed in the Eurovision Song Contest, so that is still possible. So, Tamzin, if you're looking at Ancient Brits against the Seleucids, what are you seeing there? You're seeing the defences coming out, you're seeing the attacking sides coming out. Is it going to be a midfield battle?
It all depends. It really does depend on the Ancient British Panzer Corps.
The fantastic Ancient British Panzer Corps, yes. Will they get the empty table?
Panzer Corps, or is it just a token bit of charity?
Do they get javelins now, the Ancient British chariots?
Yes, and that will make a difference. So
that will
make a difference there with them. I think it's a close call. I'm going to go with the ancient British.
Okay, so the Brits go through to the semi-finals. It's an uninspiring. You know, we haven't seen a lot from the English so far, but then again, I suppose the passion's been with the Welsh. But then
it's coming home. It's coming home.
It's coming home. It's coming home. Well, it's already at home. So it's coming home to York or Eber-Rackham possibly. So it's the Blemmy against the Brits is in the semi-finals. So those have been done. So let's move on then. And so Simon, you're looking at the third quarterfinal. We've got a home tie for the Caledonians. They're playing at Hampden Park, and they're visitors this time are the Bosphorans, all the way from Bospharea or possibly Turkey. Yes, Bospharea. Should we say Bospharea? That sounds much better. Right, yes, Turks have not done that well in the real thing, but it's a home tie for the Caledonians against the Bospharians. So Simon, what do you see happening sports-wise with this?
Grudge game, Gordon versus Richard.
Yeah. I have a feeling the Bosphorans will be all over the Caledonians. It's going to be all very ugly, very technical. And then in one round, everything's going to go mad and the game will be over very quickly.
But that's an interesting bit of analysis. But I think we're missing the key piece of information there from your analysis. And we're not going to allow you to sit on the fence there. We do need you to pick a winner here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think the Bosphorans will win.
Okay, it's a Bosphorans win that takes the Bosphorans through to the semi-finals. Yeah. Okay, all right, and then and finally, Andy, what about you? It's Rep Romans, Rep Romans versus the Sassanades in the quarterfinal. So you've got the elephants, you've got the pace of the cavalry, but you've got that solid defensive line of the Republican Romans. You've got that I think compactness in midfield. Where's that going to play out?
No, I think the Romans are going to be roadkill because the Sassanids can pile into them with cataphracts and elephants. The Sassanids can the cataphracts can then engage reverse gear, pull back, and slam in again and whack them. They've got the armor, they've got the impact. The Romans haven't got any spear armed troops to stop them. I suspect the Sassanids are going to have their way with the Romans.
Okay, then. So that puts us through to our semi-finals. So the two semi-finals are the Blemmy against the ancient Brits and the Bosphorans against the Sassanids. So, we've got North Africa or wherever a Blemmy area is against Britain, and then we've got Turkey against quite close to Turkey. So at least the international travel will be better for the fans of the Sassanids and Bosphorans. They're more likely to get there, but it will depend on international travel restrictions, whether there's many away fans, because the ancient Brits are away at the Blemmy in the semi-final. So we will be back in a moment with analysis of those games. Okay, then. Well, we're back after that short break, and we're into the semi-finals now. So we're going to have a quick three-person vote, three-person thing. So first semi-final, the Blemmyarians against the ancient Brits. The ancient Brits are away, the Blemmyarians at home. So Simon, what are you saying? These two teams have come through difficult groups. They're doing well, but this is the crunch moment. This is the semi-final. Which one has got the character? Which one has got that internal fortitude out of Blemmy and ancient Brits? What do you see in this matchup? You got the chariots, you've got the bowmen. It's a fascinating battle, isn't it? Fascinating battle.
I'm going with the ancient British because it's the summer solstice, the Druids in full swing, the Meads out. We've had a lot of good English ale. They've been on a good run. So I'm going with the ancient British.
All right. Okay. Brits have got Saunders. You're going with the away team. Saunders, what do you think out of this one?
I'm absolutely convinced it's not Blemmy, but Nobatai, because he gets the impetuous camels against the ancient Brits. And I think the impetuous camels will overcome the chariots of the ancient Brits. But then the ancient Brits will go straight through the centre with their impetuous infantry through the crap, mediocre spearmen of Julian's army.
Because that central defensive pairing of the Nobatai is pretty weak, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So
they've had a lot of injuries there.
Yeah, I think
I've seen Julian's rubbish Nobatai army. I score draw, penalties, definitely penalties.
It will go to penalties, but who's better at penalties then, David?
Ancient Brits go through on penalties.
So that's straightforward. Then that takes us through on 2 votes already. So we don't need to go to the third member of the jury. So we've got the Ancient Brits in the final. This is going to be great for the bookies, isn't it? The Ancient Brits are definitely in the final.
Shock turn up for Julian.
Shock turn up. So let's move on then. So
making it through to the final.
So the other semis then. So we're starting with Peter then. The old Bosphoranians against the Sassanids. This is a world of cavalry. I know this is a bit tricky. This is the third time we've come to ask you about the Sassanids, and you do have your elephant and cataphract fetish, but the Bosphorans have got the mobility. They got the pace down the flanks. You know, they could get those balls into the middle and start attacking the flanks.
I think you're selling in to the Bosphorans too heavy. I mean,
no, Peter, I'm trying to counteract your natural obsession with elephants and cataphracts. Well, I'm just trying to inject some fairness into this.
Yeah, you see, the problem is with the elephants being toned down a little bit. I think the Bosphorans might have it. Is that lineup of the impetuous cavalry? If you can get the command and you can actually stack it up, looking at the Bosphorans, I think it could be a winner in the pack. You know, throw in a few heavy spearmen, get a nice little chunk going forward, and then some nice Celt mercenaries to clear out on the edges. And all of a sudden, you've got quite an interesting matchup going up against the Sassanids. You know,
I'm just getting a signal from pitch side. I think we're going to bring in Micah Richards to comment on that bit of analysis.
He's just brilliant. He's just top. What a guy to work with you are, honestly.
Thank you, Micah. That's really shed a bit of light of it. So you're saying Bosphorans then, Peter? Not nonetheless. Micah's not so keen. Andy, to you, what are you looking at? Bosphorans against Sassanids. Where are you at on this?
Well, the Sassanids have got a really good manager. He's a very canny guy, and he's going to have too much in the tank. I mean, I think the problem with the Bosphorans is not the manager, but the players. I think they're a bit impetuous, they're a bit one-dimensional, and I think the Sassanids will just outmaneuver them too much. The manager will be playing an interesting formation, and the impetuous cavalry are very hard to maneuver.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think Sassanids, but only by a small margin.
That's 50-50. So Tamzin, we're coming to you for the deciding vote on this semi-final. Bosphorans against Sassanids. How do you see this one shaping up?
Well, this is going to be a tough match, as they say. The Bosphorans, great manager, but players not quite up to par. Sassanids, they got strong offence. They could well do it. I think it's going to be very close to cool, and it would be a complete shocker. But I think the Sassanids will do it, and both the favourites will not make it to the final.
So that's Sassanids through then. That's Sassanids through to the final. Well, we'll be back in a moment to discuss the final. Well, look, here we are on Worldwide World Sports, World War Sports, and we're talking about the final of the York competition in obviously a way which will never actually play out. But with only 6 of us here, we can quickly rattle through this, and we've got a matchup which, the Ancient Brits are on home ground. This is being played in Wembley. The big stone circle. It's probably been playing Stonehenge, which gives the Brits a big advantage. But we've got Ancient Brits against Sassanids. And the question is, which Ancient Brits? My guess is the Panzer Division against the Sassanids. But it's those cheap medium swordsmen in enormous numbers against the small but perfectly formed, tight, efficient Sassanid army with a lot of punch, but not a lot of width. And let's run down. So we're totting this up. Mr. Lee Ray Mayer, we're coming to you first. Ancient Brits on home turf in Stonehenge, or the Sassanids? Where are you seeing this one playing out?
I'm going Ancient British. Bring on the chariots.
You're just going chariots. They've got javelins now. They're on home ground. It's all good. Fine. That's a vote for the Ancient Brits. Saunders, what about you?
Well, kiss me under the mistletoe.
No, but thank you.
I think Sassanids. It depends on the terrain. If the Ancient Brits get the terrain right, they could do well. But I'm afraid to say it's Sassanids all the way. All that mounted against medium infantry, and the heavy cavalry will overtake the chariots. So I'm afraid it's Sassanids.
Mr. Finkel, what about you? Let's come to you next. We're on
I
one
think
all.
Sassanids. I think it depends obviously on the army list, but if we assume that the Sassanids are going to have some elephants, the ancient British chariots are going to be completely blocked by them. You've got Mike Bennett as Sassanid manager. He's very crafty. I think he'll outmaneuver the Bosphorans because of
They're not even playing, Andy, the Bosphorans.
No,
They're not
the
even
ancient
playing.
British,
It's
sorry.
the Brits, mate.
I think the ancient Brit, being primarily medium foot, I think they're going to be roadkill against the Sassanids.
Okay. So we're what are we?
Can't see past the Sassanids, I'm afraid.
We're now 2-1. Tamzin, what about you?
Well, the ancient Brits might have their Panzer Corps, but as we know, the Sassanids have got their elephants, which with their 8.88 millimeter Pak 43 guns will make mincemeat of them.
So you're going with a Second World War metaphor, which is always great for football. You know, that's what makes this onto this sort of sport onto the front pages instead of the back pages, isn't it? A good old Second World War metaphor against the Germans. So we're 3-1. So I almost hesitate in fear to come to the boy Peter.
Hang on, Peter, one point we should bear in mind. Will there be a Russian linesman? Have you got Brits against...
Bring on the elephants.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think you know they think it's all over.
No sacred camp is going to save these ancient Brits. As much as I'd love to, because I've got the army myself, it's going to be elephant snack time. They're going to stomp all over them, have them for lunch, and they might even have a couple of cavalry shooting round and throwing in a couple of bows just to follow in afterwards. After the elephants go straight through the impetuous foot.
So they think it's all over. And it is now. It's 4-1 in the final for the Sassanids against the ancient Brits. The deciding vote isn't even needed. So we're predicting a Sassanid win with the ancient Brits in second for York this weekend. So thank you for listening to Worldwide World of War Sports.
And you heard it here first.
And you might have heard it here first, possibly. And if you have been listening on the way up in your car and you've worked out how to stream podcasts through Bluetooth to your car speaker and all that malarkey. So we're looking forward to seeing you in the Saturday morning in a tent in a pub garden in York, but we can't wait. So looking forward to our first competition. So thank you everybody for listening, and we will possibly resurrect this feature at some other point in future.
And it'll be more intense competition.
There'll be much more intense competition. Thank you everybody. Goodbye from us and goodbye from you. Goodbye. That was World of War Sports, and we now return you to your normal programming. The Madaxeman podcast is back. So we've now had World of Sports. That's a new feature. Possibly we'll reconvene that, or possibly we'll do it in the car on the way up to a competition at some point in the future as well. Live recordings in the field. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, playing toy soldiers. That's the sort of competition that it's really second rate, and we're not really that interested. And the real competition is all about who can score the most points out of 3 in Andy's quiz, which means, you know, in a game in which, as we record this, the French and the Portuguese are playing literally live. And I think, Dave, are you watching it? Can you give us a live beam in from the game?
It's hilarious. So the funny story is it's 2-2 between Portugal and France. But the really interesting is BBC Two, where the Hungarians are beating Germany 2-1.
2-1, oh, right. So the Germans are going to be the ones who...
With 10 minutes to go.
So what does that mean for the actual real football then?
God knows.
Who knows?
It means they play the Sassanids the next time.
They probably play the Sassanids in the next round.
Yeah,
England could be playing the Sassanids in the next round. Right. But, you know, enough of this Middle Eastern football nonsense. Let's bring on some French techno nonsense. Monsieur Finkel, your team are drawing, the French techno team are drawing 2-2 with the Portuguese. And let's see if Ronaldo can salmon leap up and nod the French techno down and remind us what on earth we were talking about 2 weeks ago in the world of Andy's quiz.
Well, since I've got it written down here, I can do that.
Oh,
remember, the questions were all about D-days and invasions. And the first question was, in the 1880s, what did German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck say he would do if the British Army invaded the German coast of North on the Baltic?
Enter the boat race?
No.
Invade the Isle of Wight?
No, he said he'd send a policeman to arrest them.
Hey.
Very funny.
That probably works. Yep.
Yeah. Question 2. What natural phenomenon made the amphibious landings at Incheon in Korea in 1950 particularly hazardous?
It's a very fast current on the river.
And it was a very short turnaround.
It's the tidal range. Apparently, between high and low tide was an average of 29 feet.
Second or third highest in the world.
Yeah, I think Bay of Fundy is higher, but that's the only other place. It's
like a tsunami.
And it's also the speed of it as well. It's fantastic when you see the
I've river currents about 9 knots.
That's somewhere you've been sailing, Peter?
My boat that I was on went not too far away from it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think Guernsey's got a very big tidal range as well.
Yeah, there's that. There's Canada, and the UK isn't too bad in a couple of places.
Is it the 7 bore?
Bristol, yeah, 7 bore. It's just the 7 bores wider, and when it really matters and it's close up, it's not that stressful. But no, that Korean one's crazy.
Right.
Okay, so into Korea.
That's apparently not.
All right. Well, hit us with another question then, Andy.
Right. Third one was, which country was invaded by accident by a Royal Marine Amphibious Force in 2002?
España.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
It took a wrong turn. They were doing an exercise off Gibraltar and ended up landing a bit too far down the coast.
Yeah, that's right. The sat-nav went wrong and they ended up landing on a Spanish beach rather than...
Did they get arrested by a Spanish policeman?
No, they kind of them and pointed.
They sort of, I think it kind of turned up and said, "Oh, terribly sorry," and disappeared off again.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, look, on that Royal Marines on the Spanish beach, that's definitely the cue for French techno. So, Andy, with the Germans going out as we speak in the background.
No, the Germans just equalised.
The Germans are just equalised, which might make things change or it might not. We don't really understand because no one really does. So what topical thing are you going to kind of scrape out this week that may not be topical in a fortnight?
Well,
in our new
the topical theme is York.
York, Ibaracum. We're on.
Ibaracum, yes, right.
Yes.
So these are all questions for which the name York features in some respect. So question 1. On the 8th of October 1918, how many prisoners were taken by Sergeant Alvin York of the US 82nd Division? That's him by himself.
I think I know that one.
Okay.
I do.
All right.
I'll give you a clue. It's more than one. Question 2. What was the name of the sister ship of the British World War II cruiser HMS York, which featured in a famous movie about a naval battle and was sunk by the Japanese in March 1942?
Is that Tora, the film? No.
It might be.
It might be. All right. Okay. Exciting.
Question 3. Who, a strategist in art de la guerre rules, jointly with his brother, led the winning army at the Battle of York in the year 866?
866. Well, we'll have to scrape around and see if we can dig him up when we're up there this coming weekend. So, with that one, I think it's time to hit some French techno. Well, that's another timely quiz. 2 weeks from now, I'm sure we'll still be buzzing over the excitement of York and hopefully not coughing over creating some sort of.
We'll be debating the playoffs.
We'll be debating the playoffs. Yeah, we'll be seeing how our predictions have kind of come true. But in terms of predictions, the prediction we're interested in now is what do you predict that you might be painting or doing over the next fortnight? So Peter, are you looking at another fortnight of work now that you've done the Mycenaeans, or you got basing to do? Will the army be finished?
I'm taking a couple of days off, so I might actually start my assassinated Persians following the predicted win up in York over them stopping the British army. I might actually get around.
Which one is Which one is cause and effect? Because you predicted them winning all the way through, and then you've now decided to paint them on the basis that they're a winning army.
But both really. Got to play game of two halves, so now I found a nice pretty colour to spray them. So you've got to go with the feel of things. So I found a nice blue.
You got to roll with it, Mr. Saunders. Absolutely. Are you going to do you see any painting in the next fortnight, or are you just going to see how your army does in York and see if you need to add any more Romans to it?
Yeah, I'm not predicting any painting going on, but I'm definitely predicting cursing integrated artillery.
Right. What, as in their enemy, or they're not as good as you hope?
And so far they've hit nothing but a barn door.
Well, no, apart from my army, the only army they've actually been good at was when I played you.
You hit a few of my units, Dave.
I'd swear I'd put them in the army just for a laugh, and I bet they don't hit a bloody thing all weekend this weekend, Gummy.
So you're predicting a fortnight of muttering under your breath, bloody integrated artillery. Yeah, that's just going to be it, grinding your teeth.
I've been sold a dummy by Hervé and his rules changes.
Yes, you and a load of other Daves.
You went into the new fresh thing, the latest. You got into the fad, Dave.
Yes, it's a fad. It's a fad.
You got drawn into the fashion. Simon, what about you? Are you going to make a start on the Dixon guys?
Yeah, I've got them almost all sanded and all ready to go. So hopefully the first time I got some sunshine where it's not pouring with rain, I'm going to get base coated and then slowly work my way through 300 odd figures.
Are you going to do a sneaky Andy and take them with you on holiday with the spray can and hope for a kind of dry day and sneak out into the garden while your wife's not looking? Or are you not that brave? No, you're not that brave.
No, I am
foolhardy, possibly.
I've got better things to do on my holidays than paint my soldiers.
Be emasculated, yeah.
However, I will be reading various Renaissance history books and reading Kings of War Battlefield, Kings of the War rule book to figure out what the hell to do.
Okay, that's good. Mr. Finkel, what about you over the next fortnight? Is it you got more games against Dave Ray? You got painting coming up? You got games planned?
One or two games. I'm actually hoping to do a mass dark black spray of various things which I've had prepared and put on Lollipop Sticks. But the weather hasn't been that good, and I need to leave them outdoor for the smell to disperse before I bring them back inside. True. But I was thinking of sticking together my Cruel Seas ships and then doing that and just doing one big massive spray job. So that would be the next thing to do. But I actually bought, there was a guy selling it. There's a group called 50mm for sale on Facebook. And there was a chap selling a Persian army. And so I bought it, and he only wanted 60 quid for it, which is quite surprising. I think he felt he underpriced it, but having said he'll sell it. And he said it's based for Meg, and he said there's 7 foot groups and 5 cavalry groups. Now, I don't know how many's in each, but I think they call them tugs, so you don't know how big a tug is or how extensive. But I thought, well, 60 quid for 12 tugs, that can't be bad. And they arrived today.
Honestly, I think we'd all take 60 quid for 12 tugs any day of the week.
Yeah. So I've had my 12 tugs and they're very happy.
Good, fantastic. Tamzin, are you just doing World of Bananas then?
Yeah, it's going to be plantations, jungle, so depending on the weather. If we can get outside and do some spray, I prime MDF buildings.
Okay. Oh, MDF sort of Southeast Asian buildings.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Did you make them out of bamboo?
I know. I suspect they're made out of MDF. Would be my, stab in the dark guess. But
stack.
Fine, that's a stack, isn't it? Yeah, you measure MDF buildings in vertical inches when they're stacked, and that's quite a few of them. Good. No, I forgot to say earlier. I actually played a game of Chain of Command this week against Jeff. Took some of my plastic 20mm Americans against his 28mm Germans. So mine were sort of far away and his were just closer up. So if you sat the right side of the table, it looked fine. But and it's a really interesting game system, isn't it? Fighting the Germans is kind of hard, but it's one where I'm sat here going, what could I do differently? to do that, which is great. I'm not thinking about the mechanics. I'm thinking about how could I approach the tactics differently. So I'll definitely try and fit some more of that stuff in as well, and probably start looking for some 20mm support weapons as well, because I think support weapons feels like the magic ingredient. It's very difficult with just a vanilla few platoons and things like that, or a few squads. But that was kind of interesting, and I think now that I've started doing these medieval, late medieval figures, there'll be a bit more of that as well. So I think after York, we'll see what happens in terms of competitions, but getting a few more games as well, and then possibly doing a bit more painting. So we sort of feel like we're getting back a bit to normal, really, don't we, over the next few weeks?
Yeah.
Yep.
We certainly feel good. Okay, well, I think on that note of normality, if you're listening to this in the car on the way up to York, and we've dissed you and said that you won't make it out the group stages, we're terribly sorry. But if you've not worked out by now that we don't know what the hell we're talking about and we're just making this rubbish up, you're probably listening to the wrong podcast. So thank you for listening, and we shall see you all possibly at the weekend, or possibly again, or listen to you in a couple of weeks' time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Safe trip up to York.
York, is there any particular colonial food or beer that we should refer to? Like, does Yorkshire have a particular pie they like, or a pint?
There's Yorkshire, but not York's slightly different. York is Viking world. It's like posh Yorkshire.
Iberacum.
So Iberacum. Your gourmet turnips or something?
This means war.
Yorkshire, they specialise in growing great big veg, Simon.
Yes, massive veg.
Huge veg. Big veg competition.
Yeah.
It's rhubarb.
Look at the marrows. Yeah.
This means war.